for me.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. It's Nancy with For Your Canine on the road. Surprise.
And Joanne with For Better, For Worse.
And Lisa Patasco with Canine Defined.
I hope you're all well. Sorry we're a little bit late tuning in today, but having a little technical difficulty. So if you have any questions or anything like that that you'd like to ask, or anything that's burning in your mind, let us know, and then I'd like we can answer anything you like. So so to get us started, I'm going to ask. I was talking to Joanne about because one of the topics I was thinking about was resource guarding, and a lot of people think that if a dog resource guards against other dogs, it's also going to resource guard against people. And we need to define resource guarding is. It's basically if like trying to defend its food or a toy from other dogs and people. So a dog can be resource guardy with people, but not with other dogs. And they can be with people and not, or dogs and not with people. They're not, resource guarding is not a big general blanket like that. Dogs can be, it could be situational what they guard and who they guard against, right?
Right. And I think it's important to mention because, I mean, even food, toys, right? That's what most people are familiar with because that's what's most common. But, I've met dogs who will guard paper products, if they get into the trash or, get a hold of tissues or something like that, or even people, right? Your dog might resource guard you against your significant other, or they might resource guard a piece of furniture that they really like. They enjoy that space. So don't get hung up thinking it's just food or toys. Resource guarding is whatever the dog finds valuable, and that it can really be anything.
Right. So the most concerning resource guarding that we deal with is the dog resource guarding from people. That's always the more concerning one, if you will. Dog to dog, I don't know how you guys feel about it. Dog to dog doesn't worry me as much. It can be a problem, but I find it's easier to solve and manage than the dog to people. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think the dog to dog is just so much harder to fix because you can recognize it as resource guarding, but it's really hard to recognize a feeling, right? Why is the dog feel the need to guard that resource? Is it just from the other dog, or is there history between those two dogs? Is it, I think I'm with you guys. I find the least success at the dog. It's so much easier to just kind of manage it, especially when it's, mealtime or a bone or something like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with, like, for me, it's like, well, we talk about like sociability and who the dog is. Like every dog is different, but at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. Like, I would rather have a dog who has resource guarding issues with other dogs versus people, because it's much easier to address that versus, versus the people situation. That's harder. That's so much harder than dealing with that.
Yes. And the other thing is I found that most of the time when we get, and I don't know about you guys, most of the time when I get a consult with a resource guarding, they've been doing it a long time, years.
Yeah.
So you already have also the behavior is just pretty ingrained in there because they've been practicing it for so long, right?
Yep.
Right. And it's not the place for a correction, right? That's the first thing we want to go to is stop that, give it here, right? And in the grand scheme of things, that makes it worse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because then they're like, see, I knew I was going to have to,
Yep. Knew you were going to take my stuff. So,
right.
We did get another question. But I'm sorry. Did you want to have anything else to say on resource guarding?
Nope. I just wanted to give us a little jumping off point on that.
So I know in the past we've had some comments that people can't always read everything everyone says. So forgive me if you can, but I'm going to read it just in case somebody can't see it. So we have a question from Robin. She says, my 13-month-old Labrador is doing demand barking in her crate. She doesn't bark at any other times, but in her crate when she wakes up or otherwise wants out. She is relentless. Her crate is in the lower level and my bedroom's upstairs. It starts at 5:30 a.m. and does not stop until she hears me coming down the stairs. I need a methodology to fix this. I prefer 100% positive training, but this is so bad I would consider some verses. Please advise. 13 weeks. I'm sorry, 13 weeks, not 13 months.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a big difference, right? 13 weeks versus
big difference.
Big difference between weeks and months, right? So at 13 weeks, she probably has to go to the bathroom, right?
Yep.
I would probably venture to guess. So what I have done with and it was my beagle that did this when she was young. She'd get up, let me know she was, had to go potty. I would get up and let her potty because I sure as hell didn't want her pottying in the crate. And then to be able to get more shut eye, I gave her something to chew on to keep her busy. I put her back in the crate to keep her busy which allowed me to get a little bit more sleep.
And let me interrupt you. Come back to that, Nance, because she has something I have to counter ask. She said it's not related to the bathroom, but Robin, if it's a 13-week-old puppy, and unless you if this is a full night's sleep, how do you know it's not related to the bathroom? So go ahead, Nance. I'll let you keep talking while she answers that. Right,
because at 13 weeks, chances are it's the bathroom.
Yeah.
Unless she's getting up in the middle of the night.
Right.
And pottying. But at 13 weeks, sleeping all night, you are going to have a full bladder, guaranteed. So, so the problem is if she doesn't have to, because it's like she has to go to the bathroom. Let her out. That's what I used to do. Let them out, and then I'd give them something to chew on or something to keep her busy, so I can go back to sleep. Because at 13 weeks, I can't imagine what else. It's not demand, but it's not. If she's been sleeping all night, I would say she's got to go to the bathroom. I mean, and the only way she would know that is if did she already go to the bathroom? If you wait long enough, will she? You know what I mean? It's like at 13 weeks, I can't imagine what else it could be besides, maybe she's not tired, but from a full night's sleep, but you should be able to give her something to keep her busy after she goes to the bathroom. Did she answer yet? No,
not yet.
Joanne? Yeah.
Not yet.
Right, Lisa? What do you think? Because I'm like, it's 13 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm super, my life and the way I work with my dogs is like, I get up, we go potty, we come back, we feed in the crate, and I feed in the crate just because it's convenient for me.
Because you have 900 dogs.
Well, yeah, exactly, 900. So we eat in the crate, and then after that, I'll give them something to chew or something to do to like it depends. Like every dog is different. I know my own dogs, but if I'm taking somebody else's dog, typically I try to create a pattern of behavior in the crate, like creating the challenge and the excitement or the importance of being in a crate to be okay. So
right. Yeah, that's a good point, right? You make it fun to be in the crate and give them activities to do in the crate, while so they can be more comfortable, right? But and just as a side note, Robin, doing adversive at 13 weeks old in a crate will guarantee you that behavior will get much, much worse.
Yes. Okay. So she says she sleeps through the night since I brought her home. Never an accident in her crate. when I let her out, she wants to cuddle, not go out. She has lots of chew toys in her crate, and she does it other times during the day when I know she's empty. I think she wants attention, not potty, right? So it's not, to me, it probably still is potty. She just knows how to hold it really well, right? I know, like, a friend of mine just got a puppy, and I am amazed at how much that dog at like 12 weeks old can hold his bladder. He can hold it almost as long as an adult, which is crazy, right? So she may have a very strong bladder. Doesn't mean that urge to go is not saying, hey, let me out. And then other times during the day, right, she could be bored, right? And so if she has a lot of chew toys in her crate, right, I wouldn't do that. So the reason why is those are not novel anymore. I'm there all the time. Why would I chew on that? So I would have the basket of toys or the basket of, bones, whatever it is that you're going to let her play with. You get, maybe you have 7 of them and you rotate them, throughout. This time you get one, this time you get a different one, this time you get a different one. You just put them back in the basket, but that makes it new and interesting every time you try and give her something.
Right. And the other thing is, it sounds like she needs more stimulation.
Yeah.
So definitely food toys that are food puzzles and stuff for in the crate would be helpful, like that. Which is the one that Lisa that rolls around? That's like a Kong thing. What's it called?
Topples. Topples
That's
are
it.
good.
Yeah.
I really like the topples. Yeah.
Yep, those are nice.
No.
Those are nice.
And you can put it in her crate, and it'll keep her busy in the crate for a while. Right?
Yep, and like
Because.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. You were talking.
Well, and because I think it sounds like she might not be tired enough. So I'm going to tell you, when my Beagle was young, because she was really energetic, I would get her so tired and exercise her mentally, like do puzzles, do games, do training, so that she would mentally be tired so I can get some rest, because she was a busy one for sure. So yeah. I made sure she was mentally and physically tired so I can get a break, because it didn't take her long to recharge. So,
yeah.
Now there's more food puzzles, because this was quite a long time ago. This was almost 20 years ago when she was a puppy. But she was a tough puppy for sure. Energetic and busy and all that stuff. So this was, so yep. I know how you feel. Trust me on that.
So, yeah, but, in the middle of the day, if she's empty and she does have something new to chew on, those are the moments where, sometimes I do kind of let them cry it out a little bit, right? So how long, is it 5 minutes, which feels like 5 hours sometimes when a puppy's shrieking, but, really those are the moments where, and she said she does play crate games too. So, just be careful with too many rules, like with crate games at 13 weeks. But otherwise, right? I mean, definitely give her some more things to work her brain, and that can even be done in the crate, right?
Right.
Okay. So Christy has a question, and Christy, I'll tell you, we did a whole Facebook Live on this. How do you protect yourself and your leash dog from a loose charging dog?
Oh, yes.
Yep. One of you guys want to take that one?
Well, so Michael Shikasio has a whole. Lisa, does he have a workshop or a webinar on that? I think it might be on his webpage, right?
He has various stuff like masterclass and so forth about leash handling and how to deal with the dog and where to place it and stuff like that.
He has a lot of info. One of the things is you want to teach your dog to be comfortable being behind you when a loose dog is coming. What I have personally done, I used to walk dogs back a long time ago. I used to usually carry kibble in my pocket, and if I have a dog coming at me, I toss the kibble at the dog, and that works sometimes. It's just enough to interrupt the behavior. So I've used that personally. The other thing is direct stop, or now it's called something else. It's citronella that you can spray. So I used to carry that all the time as well. That was able to give me some, if a dog's coming, I can spray that dog. If the kibble didn't work, I had that as well, as a tool, right? And all that does is give you an opportunity to get where you can be safe, like somebody's a gate or a yard or something like that, to help, you know, protect your dog. But yeah, definitely having those two things. When I used to dog walk, those two things were things I used all the time.
And they and another good, and yeah, an umbrella.
Sorry, go ahead.
Is another good one. You're right.
Oh, yep. An umbrella. Yep.
Yeah, so I know that sounds funny, but like you can pop open an umbrella, or a lot of them just have the push button, right? You can do that to a dog that's coming at you.
Right.
Yep. And I think too, you know, if this is, and this, like, again, we did this for an hour. So Christy, if you want to go either on the For Better, For Worse, for your canine, or Canine Defined, and look under videos, you can scroll. I don't know, what did we do it? Couple months back, 2 months back, maybe.
Yeah.
So you want to scroll too far. But there was a whole hour on that topic, and we talk all about how you can put your dog on a, you know, hood of a car, or so there's a whole bunch of stuff on it. But yeah, if this is a frequent occurrence, like especially in the same part of town or the same dogs, I might give animal control a call as well, right? Because there are leash laws. And so I think you live around here. I don't know which town you're in, but if it's Rock Island, the animal control officer in Rock Island is pretty good about following up with stuff. So you might want to give them a call and tell them kind of what address you think the dogs live at, and he'll probably go over and pay him a visit, right?
Sure.
So, okay. What else we got? Heather. I just rescued a dog on Sunday. She's 2 years old. She's great with other dogs and humans, so sweet, but she's having a fear reaction to cats. She doesn't bother with them when they're across the room, but if they get close, she'll tense up. She has shown teeth and tried to nip at them. No growling or barking, and if they're at a distance, she doesn't care and will fall back to sleep. I'm working on getting stuff with the scent of the cats in with her, and she'll sniff it and lay on it.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things, right? With the cat smell and all that. So I'm going to tell you, since you just got her on Sunday, just give it time.
Right.
And it sounds like your cats are pretty dog savvy. So just give them, since she's a little worried about them, because cats can be intense, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I have 2 cats at home, and they control my house. I'm just saying. Dogs, if the cats decide the dog shouldn't be in a certain room, they don't go in there.
Unless we come over.
Right. But obviously I don't let them the cats do that, because that's not nice, but give it time. You've only had her a week. So just give her some time to decompress and get used to the cats being there. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things, having the cat smells there and all that. And just make sure, if the cats aren't really worried about the dog, but hopefully your cats can read her body language and maybe leave her alone, or just, when she does it, just shoo them away so that she's not so worried about them, because cats can be pretty intense. Depending on their ages and all that, they can be pretty intimidating. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of things right. So
I think for like things that I recommend doing is like have them on leash, reinforce them for checking in with you, reinforce them for relaxing in the presence of the cat. And again, like you said, like Nancy, like if the cats are like coming close and stuff, moving them away from the dog, because remember, it is about the mindset of where the dog is. So if the dog is not comfortable, you need to address that issue, so for me, I would, and there's a thing, 3 days, 3 months, or 3 weeks, 3 months. It takes time for them to kind of acclimate. You haven't had her for very long, therefore it is something that requires a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, time is, and I'll be honest, time is the biggest thing. Yep. And Lisa's probably can speak to more of this. And all of us have done rescue at some point, and one of the biggest problems we have is people not giving the dogs the time to decompress when they get to their new home, and to get used to what their new environment's going to be like. So I would, and also just relax about it too, because she might pick up if you're worried about it. She might worry about it more. So
Right.
just letting her relax around, just let them be. Have good things happen when the cats come by. Like Lisa said, check in, get some treats when the cats come by. Oh, look at the cat, and create that positive association with the cat being present.
Right.
Is probably good enough to. Over time, you're gonna see that that's not gonna be that they'll be okay with that. So
Yeah, and one thing, just because I know it can happen, not that you mean it to, but really be careful if you're using a crate. Don't let the cats wander right around
Yeah.
that crate, climb on the crate, right? It's just that is like, it's almost like Fear Factor, right? I'm gonna put you in the glass box and we're gonna pour snakes on you, right? So if the dog's afraid,
Yeah.
really, really treat it the same way. Like if you were afraid of a snake or a spider, I know it sounds silly to you because the cats are loving and you love the cats, but if she really views them as big scary monsters, just every interaction, be careful that those cats aren't like, hey little dog, because unfortunately some cats really are like that. They're like, oh, you're afraid of me? How do you like that? So yep.
I know. I don't know any cats like that, but go on.
Yeah. No. Come here.
Yeah.
No, I'm
And
kidding.
Spider would bounce off the dog, so they walked into the room. Yeah.
Yep. All right, Vanessa. Tips for jumping overstimulated puppies. I'm having a hard time with greeting strangers approaching. I love this one. So, for me, it depending on how old your puppy is, sit is your best friend, right? And it doesn't always work, but I always say if their little rear end is on the floor, that is when people get to, say hello to them. And if they're jumping, just don't, either put a leash on them or don't allow them to run over to people, right? That overstimulation piece, unfortunately, if we don't work it and they also get rewarded with the interaction with people, it continues or it gets worse. The other thing is, Suzanne Clothier's Go Say Hi, which I use all the time. And so that one really is, you need to sit, you need to check in with me. You basically, it's kind of like when you can sort of ask permission, which that's not really what it is, but when you're calm enough to say, hey, and check in with me and say, I'd like to go meet that person, it tells me your brain's in the right spot. So I can say, go say hi. I allow you to go up to that person for a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to put a treat right in front of your nose and I'm going to lead you away. Right. And you'll get rewarded back here too.
Right.
I think, so my, and I know Nancy knows him. My Border Collie wants to wear you as like a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been very tricky. I love the sociability, but at the same time, he's super rude about jumping and so forth. And for me, we rehearse walking up to people and not getting to say hi until you are very aware of where I am. And then we get to say hi. And I know Michael Ellis, for example, he teaches his dogs and he works a lot with Malinois. And he works about like walking around them. They're seated and he teaches them not to say hi or engage them until they're able to, his motive is a little different. But for me, it's like, I like the sociability of dogs. I want that piece of it. It's important to me. I want that comfortability, if that makes sense. So like for him, I want him to be able to pay attention to me and then, hey, oh, look, there's a person. He's settled. He's not out of his mind. He's not over aroused, depending on, and I think this is important to like pay attention to. Is your dog comfortable saying hi, or are they concerned about that situation? They jump and come back to you and get a cookie type of thing. I think it totally depends on
Right.
the motive of who your dog is.
Right. Because I have a very rude lab.
Yep.
And she does want to jump up as well, just like Tenor. But yeah, so usually I have her sit, check in as much as I can, but she's rough because jumping up is extremely reinforcing for the dog. So usually when people are coming over, which isn't very often, I don't let her come to the door because the door is such a charged up, highly aroused place. So I don't let her practice that. She's in another room or in a crate until people are in and settled and things are calmer, and then she can come out. Because the setup is better for her, that she's not all amped up and jumping up and all that stuff. Because that's it's jumping up is extremely reinforcing for dogs. They just
What I think, and I would agree with you, I think a lot of it has to do with like building a pattern of behavior. Like when people come over to your house, don't make a big deal out of it. I think we make a mistake of making other dogs and people so much more exciting than listening to us, right? So to me, that is something that I'm like, well, I know that's a problematic behavior moving forward. Therefore, I'm going to guard against it and teach them not to do that behavior. And for example, people come to the door, teach them to run to their crates. My dogs on my crate, they go running because they love their crates. And I'm like, once you settle down, you can come out and then say hi to people, because then you're less excited. And I think, I don't understand why. I don't understand that, but that seems to be a big thing, having the dogs out when people come in the house, right? Like, to me, it's like, yeah.
Well, it's a safety issue too. For example, if you're having grandma come over and your dog, and even if your dog's nice and they love grandma, they can accidentally knock grandma down the stairs, or they can actually knock grandma into the wall. So from a safety perspective, I'm kind of, I'm a little more conservative about that. So I don't, when people come over, my dogs are usually not at the door. And so it really helps with them being calmer when they greet people.
Yeah.
Okay, Cheryl, I know Christy asked too, like a link to the page you're talking about the loose dog. We'll put it in the comments at the end, or I'll share it again. We can share it again on our pages, since it seems to be a big thing, right? Loose dogs and people having issues with them. So, okay. Yeah. Jennifer, a friend contacted me today about a dog he adopted that has separation anxiety. He can't afford a trainer. What advice can I give him? And then she follows up with, the dog broke out of the crate and tore up a chair.
Well, to me, it would think that the dog has no crate skills, right?
Right. Yep. And the truth is, I mean, we can give you some tips, but if it really has true separation anxiety, there is no way around it. You need to work with somebody to make that better. Because and depending on the level of the intensity of the separation anxiety, in some cases they need meds to be able to get the training in. So it's a toughie.
And sometimes, just saying, if he has not talked to a trainer, there are occasions, if this is a young adolescent dog or even an adult high energy dog, it could be boredom. If they just adopted the dog and it was in a shelter, right, and now has freedom that it doesn't know what to do with, it could have just ripped up a chair because that was a really big fun stuffed toy, right? So it's important to know what you're dealing with. So I think when we talk about what separation anxiety looks like, when you have something severe enough for a dog to rip up a whole chair, usually when you come home, the dog's like chin and chest area is wet because they've been drooling. And that's not something they can control. That's something the nervous system does with high anxiety in dogs. Panting, really heavy panting, pacing, scratching, all of those types of things. So, set up maybe a camera if he has house cameras, with separation anxiety, once there's a pattern in the house, you can start to see it long before the person leaves. The dog will start to pant or pace, or again, do all these behaviors that are precursors, because they start to learn, oh my gosh, oh, you poured out your coffee. Oh gosh, you're putting your shoes on. Oh, I hear the keys, right? And so it's just this big ladder that they climb of anxiety, waiting for you to leave. So
I think the most important thing that I remember learning from Dr. Rudy DeMeester, from when he talked about videotape it, right? So he videotaped it, and it was funny because, or funny-ish, like this one guy said, "Oh my gosh, my dogs they come home, the house is destroyed, and this and that." And there were two little terriers, of course, terrorists, of course.
Yes, I remember this one.
Remember they were jumping up and down? They're like, "He's gone." And then they went nuts. They like pulled out pans. They were like jumping and sliding on pans. They had a great time. It was like a little frat party. I remember that. And I was like, well, so anytime I get I think separation anxiety is one of the words that is like overused. They're not truly, it's not something that people truly understand, because to me, if you have separation anxiety, it is truly a dire situation for dogs, right? They're very concerned. It's problematic. And it's an anxiety inducing situation. And like Joanne said, all the steps leading up to it, whereas like when he talked about it, like, and then he talked about another case that he had where the dog, they set up a video. He's like, "Send me video." And when he sent the video, this dog remember the dog was like spitting in a crate, like literally, like, awful. Yeah. And so they, instead of addressing that issue with him, they chose, because they were trying different things and they felt so terrible about it. They made a different decision for the dog, because it was not a good frame of mind for that particular dog. They were in a panic state. So there's a difference. Like, true separation anxiety is not something that it comes and goes. There's different degrees of it. I think that that's something that people have to understand of it. And when people contact me about that, I say, please send me video when your dog is gone.
I think when you hit video, that word,
and that's
go ahead, Nancy.
I think video, doing a video is going to be your best line of defense, because at least you have, you can at least really pinpoint what it really is, right? If it's real separation anxiety or something else, right?
Yep. And I think, when we talk about separation anxiety, and there's different levels of it, but when I think of those really bad cases, and I've never had one, so I don't know what it's like, but when people describe a panic attack to me, where it's like, I can't breathe, I feel like, I can't get my air, I just want to die, right? At those like horrible feelings, I really kind of equate that to those really bad cases of separation anxiety. The dogs truly believe I might die. Like, I don't know when you're coming back. I don't know what's going to happen. So, it can go from as simple as a worry into something terrible like that. So you really have to have a trainer get eyes on it to tell you, because there's no one method. It depends on where the dog's at. So, yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, because if there's and a lot of times there's an anxiety component in separation anxiety, and in many cases it does require some medication. So.
Yeah. And I think, Jennifer, what if he barks like a maniac in the crate? I don't know if that's the same dog you're talking about, but that's another sign, right? It can be another sign of anxiety. It can also be another sign of boredom. Like, I don't like this. I don't want to be in here, blah, blah, blah. Or, right, it can be a sign of, so you don't know until you can really observe the behavior. So,
and I think that's pretty important. Like, I remember working with somebody who was like, "Oh, this is separation anxiety." I'm like, why? Why is that? Do you have video and so forth? And most people, let's talk about this, because I know how I am, but like most people don't necessarily do a lot of crate training when you're home. Like, who puts their dogs away when you're home? And so when you are home, right, me too, but when you are home, like, are you perpetuating that expectation for the dog? Because if you're not, then that is something that is critical to like understand. Are they not accustomed to your routine or not? Because that makes a difference. It's huge.
Yep. And if you're suspecting that it is, walk through on a Saturday morning, right? Whatever day you have off. I'm just going with the normal, like 9 to 5 job, right? So let's just say it's a normal 9 to 5 job. On the Saturday morning, do the same things. Get up, take your shower, pour your coffee, do whatever, and then run through everything you do before you actually open the door and watch the dog, right? Because if it's just the simple fact of, they're watching you or whatever, but you'll start to see signs eventually once they know your routine. So, okay. Mary, to each trainer. Well, Nancy just got home, so we may not have her for a minute, but what is the best training tip and or training advice you've gotten? And what's the worst training tip and training advice you have received? Wow, this is like interviews. So, Mary, do you mean about our own dogs or like just in general what we've heard? So, I guess going in general on what we heard. Lisa, what's the best training tip you've got?
I think it is very important, like for dogs to have routine, just like kids. They patterns are critical, and it is important for them to know what's coming next, because then it creates security and safety. So for me, that has been the most profound thing that makes sense to me. And I've been doing it naturally for many years. But then when I heard it, that was the aha moment. I'm like, oh, well, that's why my dogs, I mean, like the other day. So my husband's like, hey, our dogs are really good. And I'm like, yeah, our dogs are really good because I've created a pattern of behavior and expectation when you're in this situation. So that is critical. And then the worst advice I've received is the whole, I guess, I've heard many things. So it's hard for me because I look at dogs differently. And I've heard the worst advice I've heard from people that I've worked with about their dogs is like a lot of aversives when the dog is fearful. And that makes me insane because so recently I took home a little foster puppy and she was terrified, and she came into the facility and I evaluated her. Super social. She was social, but she was worried, and it inhibited her sociability. So she wasn't super what I would consider a stable puppy. But then she came to my house. She was terrified. My husband even considered keeping her. But then when she would growl at him a couple of times in the crate, he's like, no, I'm not going to keep her. I'm like, listen, this is my responsibility. You will have to help me with this. So I was like, I prepared all these treats. I'm like, so go in there, give her cookies. And then finally she was like, oh, you're not so bad. And it only took a little while. It didn't take very long. And then she's like, okay, you're all right. And so then, but this particular dog, because she was a little concerned around other dogs, another trainer advised that she should be on a prong collar. And I'm like, she's not comfortable around other dogs. So I gave her tons of autonomy where she had the opportunity to be engaging on other dogs in my presence. And I would save her. I would be there to help her. And I have video of all this stuff. And she got so much better to a point where she got super naughty. And then I was like, okay, now we need to add rules because this is inappropriate. And the dog is telling you. So I think it's so the bad advice that I hear or advice that I hear concerning dogs is like, it's upsetting to me because it's not individually based. It's about how the dogs have to behave in the presence of other dogs, regardless of how they feel. And to me, that's not okay because if I'm uncomfortable in a situation, either I choose to move away or I'm not dealing with that. I'm out. Peace out. Like, okay, I'm going to go home and do my own thing and you do you. And there you go. So.
Yeah. So I think for me, the best and the worst kind of go hand in hand. It was a turning point for me in my training career. And it was my very first seminar with Suzanne, and it was at Nancy's place. And so, I was a young trainer and I knew how to do things and I could get dogs to do obedience things. And, I played sports and I knew what I was doing. I didn't know everything, but boy, I sure thought I was a pretty decent trainer. And sitting in this seminar, right, and people started asking questions and, you started hearing phrases like it took forever and I had to. And, she would just stop people dead in their tracks and said, you had to. So was the world going to end if you didn't do that? And they were like, what? Like, what? You're like, why did you have to? What was the, well, because I was late. Okay. So you didn't have to, you could have been late, but you chose to fill in the blank, right? Whatever it was. And I think it seems so simple, right? It seems so simple to me, but boy, it opens your mind to just ask the question of, okay, that doesn't work for you. How can I do the same thing in a different way? Or how can I make it better? Or how can, I change something that will change it for you? So, I mean, to me, that really just completely flip-flopped what I thought I knew and told me, you don't know anything about anything, right? And so that was kind of the start to the new philosophy, and following that was, gosh, 15 years ago. It was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
And so, the worst training advice, same thing. I'm going to go with the same thing. I had to. Why? Why did you have, or make them do it, right?
Yeah.
And you can put that phrase with anything that you want to, right? Walking on a leash, pottying, anything, barking in a crate, anything.
For me, going over a teeter, right? It's like, force them. I'm like, why?
Because he has to do it for the.
Because why?
I read a Facebook post. Somebody was asking a question about something agility related, and the person said, you need to let them know it's not an option to not work for you.
Why?
I'm like, it's another living, breathing thing. Pretty sure, if they really choose not to, you're not going to have a finger left. So, why would you let it get to that point? Like, everybody's got an option all the time. And when you don't, that's slavery. That's entrapment. I mean,
right.
So Nancy, I don't know if you can see it now, but Mary's question, was what's the best training tip and advice? Okay, go ahead.
What's the best training tip I have gotten is to meet the dog handler team where they are. Mm-hmm. Meet them where they are, because when you're like Joanne was saying, when you're a young hotshot trainer and you think you know it all, you're like, oh, how can they just not know this and whatever? It's like, no. And this is for the people, because I am an extrovert, in case you haven't noticed, and I do like people. They do come with the dog, and some people, they might not be ready to hear certain things. Yeah. And over the years, I have learned how to gauge that better, and information and advice you're giving them. So how to meet them where they are, meet them where they can handle what you've got, and it may not be where you want them to be, but it's where they can be at that moment, and supporting that and giving them that autonomy. Because at the end of the day, having meeting the people where they are is going to make the life of that dog so much better, because they will learn and they will take it in, and over time, they can get where you think they should be, right? So that was the first one. Meet each team or person where they're at. The worst training tip I ever got is to make sure you show them who's boss. They have to know that you're in charge and that you have to dominate the dog. That's the worst training advice I got. Which, fortunately for me, I never took any, didn't do anything to take them up on it. But it was with my own dog, and it's like, well, don't let him get away with that. You're in charge. And I'm like, yes and no. But it's no different. Like, if the three of us were going to dinner, I'm like, well, I'm in charge, and we're going here, and you guys are going to do that. Well, maybe they'll go along with it, or other times they'll be like, yeah, I don't freaking think so.
Well, I'm just thinking of that situation where I'm like, Nancy thinks she's in charge. You wait. I'm going through the door first. She'll know exactly where.
She'll know.
I'm going to eat first too, so you wait.
That's the whole, and I think that goes into the whole alpha and dominance theory and all that stuff. And it's like, I'm telling you, man, you are not going to get anywhere with me if you try to alpha roll me or dominate me. I am not okay with that.
She's gonna bite you.
If I were a dog, I truly would be put down, because my social tolerance is not good. I'm social to a certain point, but my tolerance not so good. So
yeah. Well, and it was an interesting thing. There was a time, and I can't remember. I don't think I've heard that anymore. I had a client say that a trainer told them that they should eat in front of the dog first. And I'm like,
well, I hear that in my neck of the woods a little more frequently, probably than you guys. And I'm like
what?
And
the dogs are like, okay, I'm not thinking that's going to work at all.
If you ever want a really funny version of that, there's a guy named John Mulaney, if you've heard of him. He's a comedian, and he talks about they hire this trainer for their pug. So he says, I'm sitting there eating out of an empty bowl at 4 p.m. to let my dog know who's in charge.
Yes,
like,
that was...
My dog was looking at me like it was ridiculous. So it's just, and that's truly, I think dogs look at us sometimes like, okay, weirdo, whatever you need to tell yourself. Right. So
yeah, right. Because it's like, so yeah, that was the biggest, that's the worst advice. Like, don't let them, dominate, blah, blah, blah. Because it's like, you would never say that to like not these days anyway. I'm sure back in the day. But one of the things, it's like, you would never tell, and we have had that conversation. Don't let that man dominate you. You're going to show him, you know what I mean? And some men, that's how they've treated women in the past. And that was a normal conversation men had about women. So imagine that, right? Don't let her, you need to be the man and be in charge and all this other stuff that men used to say. Nowadays, after the Lorena Bobbitt thing, things have calmed down some, but it's, I mean, that's not a conversation. I mean, I'm sure it exists, but it's not something that's the norm anymore. Right. It's the norm.
Thankfully, thank God.
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, and I think a lot of times we need to look at the whole, like the domination or the wolf pack stuff that you hear and all that. I'm like, give me a break. Have you really studied wolves? Do you really understand that it's not about domination? It's about like survival and
cooperation.
Yeah, cooperation, right? And like people don't understand that. It's like they do certain things to like, it could be manipulative to try and gain certain access to certain things, but at the same time, it's like it's not about who is in charge, because truly wolf packs are families. It's a mother and father and siblings, right? Or kids. And then the siblings are the ones, and they suck up to mom and dad because they're trying to gain access to something or whatever. But like, I think that's truly misunderstood. And anybody who bases their training upon that is kind of like, it's not real. It's not effective.
Doesn't work long term.
No, it does not. No, it does not.
Most people, even Lisa, right, with 900 dogs, right? So, I mean, most people don't have, even if you came close to that, it's not, yes, it's a pack. It's not that kind of a pack.
No, right? It isn't.
And so, I mean, as much as you say, right, it's been debunked. It's not
no. There's
at least 50%, at least 50% of trainers out there are still following those methods.
Yeah.
So
I think, like for me, it's like I bring dogs in all the time. And for me, like my dogs, any dog I bring in, I'm like, this is our routine. This is what we do. And here's the deal. They don't look to the other dogs like, what's the deal? The other dogs are like, this is what we do. Who cares about what you think? We're following what we know. And my dogs, so I have a little young guy right now who's 14 months old, and he's a little Shih Tzu mix. And, he's Mr. like party animal. I love dogs. And he's like, pounce, pounce, pounce. My dogs are like, Mom, should I play with him or should I just lay down? I'm like, yeah, how about if you just not engage him? Because he needs to learn how to like relax in the presence of other dogs because he's so excitable in them and stuff like that. And so they help me train them because we have a understanding about what we do in our home. You know what I mean? Wow. So it's
Tango would be horrible at that.
Tango's like, come on. I'm like, sorry, buddy. He's like, you suck. I hate you.
Yeah. He goes, we're a party animal. Let's do this. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Mary's question, and then Carolyn, I think yours might be a really good one to end on just because it's another kind of fun one. But Mary, please address permissiveness versus consequences. What a good question.
Yep. That's a great one. So
let's see, permissive, and we see it a lot, especially when we're walking our dogs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being permissive is allowing the dog to just go and take you, drag you wherever they want.
Yeah.
That is permissive. And that's a hard no. You don't get to drag me over to visit the other dog. You don't get me. It's like, because I've heard this. Oh, he just loves other dogs. I don't care.
I don't care.
You never get to drag me to visit another dog. Sorry, or a person. Just don't. I don't care how nice you are. So and those are because those are also liability issues, right? The dogs are, it can hurt someone.
Says the
So
lady with the 100-pound dog.
yeah. So the 100-pound dog, as much as he wants to drag me and actually with dogs and people, much improved.
Mhm.
What he wants to do is when he wants to go pee, he wants to drag me to a tree. And it's like, no, you don't get to drag me to the tree. You just don't. I won't have it. And not to say certain things, and then it's very personal, right? Like I'm gonna be honest, my little dogs, I don't care about jumping. She jumps, I don't care. I didn't train it. My big dog's jumping, no, I don't like it. Right? So it really is what's important to you and what your rules are. So resource guarding your other dogs. I don't like that. So certain things are fighting, or there's certain things that I'm not okay with. But some people are well. He just likes that. Well, I'm glad, but if it would say, if I'd go if Lisa's eating a brownie and I'm like, I'm just go take the brownie, and somebody's gonna say, oh, she just loves brownies. I'm like, well, but that was a very inappropriate behavior.
There will be a fight.
Yeah. But
I don't
right,
know what happened. I just went to try and take her brownie.
but it's true. It's like that is just because I love brownies doesn't mean I get to just I'm going to take that brownie because I want it. Right? That's permissive. Right? And the consequences are trickier in that it's got to fit the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The consequences have to fit the dog. So, for example, if like for Tango, if he does something, he has a transgression, which he does all the time. But at home, I just put him in another room and close the door. That is a huge consequence for him. Giving that timeout is like, I might as well have just killed him because that is such a huge thing for him.
Yeah.
Where for Jive, she'll be like, okay,
Right.
I'll be out of here in a minute.
I
Right?
think that's really important. Like for me, permissive, like, yeah, letting the dogs pull, not having requirements of them about, oh, they just, this is part of who they are. Okay. If you're okay with that, that is on you.
Right.
But like if you're okay with your dog jumping up and so forth, that's on you. You get to choose what's important.
Right.
But permissive is not positive, right? Positive training and permissive, I think, gets kind of convoluted, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, I'll tell you something like consequences. Like I can go to my dog Ivy and she's like, oh, I'm sorry, what did I do? Where if I did it to Luke, he's like, whatever, what? And I go get him at 15 years old, almost 15 years old. And he's like, oh, is that bad? I'm like, yes, don't do that. It's not okay. So I think like it's so relative to the individual. It's no different than you, like if somebody goes to correct you, what are you more responsive to? Right. And like if somebody's like, hey, wasn't cool, I didn't like it, that's a different story than hey, you suck. Right. That's a whole nother story.
And it's like the movie, like the movie Go Back to School, when the chauffeur was talking to the son. He goes, I had two sons. One son I put through college, the other son I put through a wall.
Yeah.
So it's very relative, right? because it's like it doesn't, just like with people, right? You're not going to use the same methodologies to raise your children either, as far as punishment, because what's punishing to one is not punishing to the other. So you really have to understand what your dog does find punishing, or a sufficient consequence. The other thing, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. If you're constantly having to give the dog a timeout for the same thing, it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and it also doesn't mean improve your consequence, right? So I think even before you want to talk about putting a hefty consequence on a dog, even if that's what that dog needs, you have to make sure the dog understands
Right.
what they're doing wrong. Because,
Right.
if they're doing something, and like Nancy said, right, if you're continuing to have to correct that, sometimes they're hard-headed and, I have one of those and he sucks and I love him, but he sucks, and sometimes the dog's like, what? But dad let me do that all the time. Or, you didn't do that. So if you're throwing in permissiveness and then choosing when to add in that, don't do that now, you really have to be sure that dog is really clear on what that correction or consequence is for. Okay.
Right. I think it's a issue of being fair, right? And and if you're unfair, it's going to affect your relationship. And your dog's like, you suck. I don't know. You understand what you understand about what's happening. And I agree. I think it's when I go and I look at my dog and they're like, okay, was that a bad idea? I'm like, yeah, probably not a good choice. How about if we do this? And then they follow suit. But yeah, I think it's really important. I think that is something that's lost in training, and it's a one size fits all. And to me, it's not fair, because I'll tell you, like, if somebody was really harsh with me, I'd be like, okay, you suck. I won't talk to you again. We're done. Goodbye. That's who I am. I walk away. I'm like, bye-bye. I'm done. Not dealing with that. But if you are fair and you sit there and have a conversation with me, I'm more willing to have that discussion with you as well.
Right. And that's and you definitely want to be what you also want to want the dog to be very clear about what that you need to be sure they know what the expectation is. So that's the other problem. They don't really understand what you're asking, right? So you need to be sure that they understand, right? Don't just assume they know what you mean, right? Like if you do a sit, well, is the sit really solid? Because if you're going to correct him for it, he better know it, right? If he's not sitting, right? And if he's not sitting, the first question you would ask is why. Make sure the training's in and all that before then you add a consequence for that, for not performing that behavior. You want to be very clear that the dog gets it. Right?
And gets it in that environment. If they know it inside out in your kitchen and your living room, when you go to the training center for the first time and there's 7 dogs around, that's not the time to say, well, this is the first time we're here, but he knows sit. Right. So just, again, it's just ask all the questions before you're willing to say, he knows that. Right.
Right. Okay. Carolyn's question. It's a really cool question. Yeah. I like it. Which do you enjoy more? Class instructing, private training, online sessions, or seminar presentations? I'm going to be honest. I like all of those because they all involve teaching. But I do enjoy class instructing and seminars. Those are my top 2. Not that I don't like the others, but because you get that immediate. For me, because I am an extrovert, I love that instant back and forth with the people, right? So I really enjoy that. And I love the community that a class brings, the good and the bad too, and seminars too, that back and forth between you and the people, because and that's really because I am more of I like the others too. Same with the private training and the online sessions. I really come to enjoy those, but it's a little delayed, right? I really like that instant working with the people part, which is why I was just talking to Joanne. I go, I love what I do. Like I love teaching. I enjoy it so much. And it's just having a business. It's great, but the other part of the business, the administrative part is the part I don't like very much. I just like teaching and instructing. That's my favorite. So I like all of them pretty evenly, but if I had to rank, instructing and seminar presentations are my top 2, which I do a ton of that. So I do a lot of the other stuff too, but it's for me, it's the people working with the people, and the dogs, you get to see the improvement, you get to see how much better they get. So I love those two the most.
Go, Joanne.
Okay. So, I think the same thing for me. I love teaching, right? I like it all. I really do. But I would have to go class instructing and private training. And I think the class piece, right? You get the same classes over and over again, right? Especially like the nose work classes. So people do kind of become family. You get to know, about their lives, and you see them every week. And so I don't know, I really enjoy that part of it. And then it's sort of the long haul stuff, right? So you get to see this baby dog that was scared to put its head in a box, go on to run an elite trial. It's crazy. So I love that part of it, and just watching a journey and being able to sort of have input and be a part of that person's journey with their dog. But I also really love private training a lot. And the reason for that is, in most cases, right, at least 75% of the cases, by the time somebody calls you for private training, they're like on their last leg, right? We don't know what else to do. We tried everything. We might have to put the dog to sleep, or give the dog back to rescue, or give it up, or like whatever, right? And I mean, not that we're all miracle workers, but in an hour session, most of the time, people leave with hope. People leave with a plan. People leave kind of excited that there is things to do that will help their dog, right? And sometimes I never see them again. But just giving them a different idea that they've never heard before, and really just that sheer hope of like, I thought there was nothing we were going to be able to do. So I really, really love that part of it too. It's kind of like that second chance for a dog. So,
and I think I enjoy all of it, like everybody does, right? And so, and honestly, there have been things that have happened in my life where I could walk away completely. And as much as I thought about doing it, honestly, I couldn't do it. I couldn't, because it was like, it's in my blood, right? And that's the thing that I think is like, with the three of us, it's like, you could possibly walk away and say, like, I don't want to do this. I don't have to do this. But when given the opportunity, it's like, it's hard to say no, because it's in you. It's just there. It's innate. It's part of who you are, and so forth. And, and I thought, okay, I taught tons of classes, like 20 classes in a week. It was crazy hard. And yeah, I mean, like, and the thing is like, I like variety. So I like the ability to teach classes. I like to do in-home. I like to do private lessons. I like to work with the dogs independently of their handlers to get to know who they are and what they need. And the information that you communicate is relative to what the people are able to receive at the time. And you hope you can help, is basically the situation. And I remember, like, periodically you get bones thrown at you, and you're like, that's what keeps you going, right? Like, the very challenging case, you're like, I don't know how to do this, and what's happening, and okay, why is this happening? And then you try something, because there's no, as you know, there's no like recipe for perfection according to each individual dog, because hello, they're sentient beings like us. And when you find that mix, it's okay, I can hold on a little longer. Okay, this is going to keep me going, right? And so those are the things that keep me thriving and continuing on. It's not easy, because I'll tell you, I think a lot of times it's very challenging, like, because people have such different understanding or ideas about what a dog should do or how they should act. But honestly, it's so relative to the individual. And to me, that's the nugget in it, right? Is finding out who that individual is, how to help that particular that dog, and then help the individual understand and address those expectations and accept who they are. Because, like I tell people, I'm like, my mom would much rather have me not be a dog trainer, but yet marry a doctor and not have to worry about whatever. But that's not in my cards. That's not who I am. And I would not have been happy doing that. So I guess to me, it's like there's so many things that you enjoy, but ultimately, whatever it is, whether it's instructing classes, private training, seminars, anything, it's when that light bulb moment goes off.
Mm-hmm.
See the look in that person's eyes that says, I get it. I can see
Yep.
that. And
So-
to me, that's everything.
Yeah, and so I just came back from doing that's where I was in LaPorte doing a seminar, and it was so, and that's what I mean, and that's why I enjoy so much doing the seminars, because you can
Right.
see the people like look at their dogs in a different way, in a better way.
Right.
So I just love, and if you can help that team be better in whatever they're doing, whether it's a behavior or whatever, it's just the best. It's the best thing. And oh, I never thought of that. That's always been my favorite. Oh, I didn't even think of that, or
Right.
even think of doing that. It's just a great thing because it just helps people think about things a different way, and it's just good to be part of good to be a part of that. So
I think
so,
and I think too, like we the three of us look at dogs differently. Like thanks to growing up, quote unquote, growing up on Suzanne, right? She looks at not just who the dog is, who the person is, the relationship between the two, but physically, mentally, like all the aspects. And that has been like how I've grown up. And to me, that has been critical in terms of like what's going on? Why is this dog having this issue? Who's the situation? Whose issue is it? Is it really the dog's or the person or what? And I think like Suzanne has been super instrumental in everything that I've learned about how to look at dogs, right? And I think that's what we share all together. It's like, even when we consult with each other, like, what do you see here? This is what I see. And there, it's so I think the difficulty of trainers is like, trainers are not as open-minded with each other.
Yes.
It's very upsetting to me. I don't understand it because we're all trying to do the same thing. So why can we not share? Right. What's the problem? I'm no better than anybody else. I see things differently, but my view is not the only view. Right.
Right. And sometimes that's why we do share stuff like, what do you think of that? And you're like, oh, yeah, maybe this or that. And sometimes a different set of eyes is really helpful.
Yes.
So it's nice to have each other to be able to do that. Do that with, because I think Lisa and I think I have shared a couple of cases where it's like, oh, and sometimes it's just validation. Like, yep, that's what I see too. I'm like, okay. Because sometimes, we've been doing it a long time, but sometimes we're not perfect. And maybe we might be wrong, and we are wrong sometimes. Like every once in a while, you're like, okay, I didn't miss that, or I didn't see that, right? Because I wish we were perfect and we didn't make any mistakes, but we do the best we can. And then we also learn from it. If I miss something, why did I miss it? What was in that caused me to miss that piece? Hey, Deb, a club in Indiana invited me to go down and do a seminar, a nosework seminar today. So I was down there all day today with a lovely group of people, and it was quite a lot of fun. So, yeah, and that's what I am scheduled to do a lot of seminars. I really do enjoy doing those. It's a lot of fun. But anyway, all right. I hope that answers a lot of your burning questions. I know the Doberman's like, it's dinner time. Anyway,
too bad he's looking at the Vishla when he said it. Sorry, poor Noah.
Poor Noah. Poor Mr. Sweater Vest. Anyway, all right, all. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.